Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up your documents in InDesign and get you set up with your grids for project 2. So let's get started. As you load up InDesign, you'll see a screen that should look familiar to you. It looks like every other Adobe software, and that's because they're pretty good and consistent, and we like that. It'll automatically show you a bunch of recent documents if you've been working in InDesign previously. That's kind of nice. It'll also give you some very quick presets, letter, web, that's fine. But for our project, we're going to be creating a new file from scratch. So let's click that new file button in the top left, and you will be presented with an array of different sizes. Um, so we are working from 11 by 17 for project 2. If you didn't know, that is a tabloid size. However, let's make sure that this document is set up exactly how we intend to use it. And it's good practice to sort of go through each of these settings line by line from here on out, just to make sure everything is exactly how you want it. So the very first thing you should do, obviously, name your document. We stay organized in our classes, don't we? I forget how I told you to name it, but I think it's like P2 last name, whatever. And then the second thing you'll probably notice, you don't know what picas are. That makes sense. So InDesign as a standard will automatically set the unit of measurement to pica. Picas are historically significant units of measurement to measure column widths and stuff like that. We still use it as a reference measurement because it influences some of the terms that we use, like kerning and tracking. And when you get to your type classes and your professor is telling you the importance of the pica, listen to them. It still carries its meaning, but we're totally gonna not use it in this class, and that's fine. So just switch it to inches, totally fine. Your width, like I said, 11 inches, height 17 inches, perfect. For this document, project 2, we're creating a poster. So we don't need facing pages. So deselect this. In your next project, project 3, you will be creating books. So facing pages, that's exactly what that is. It's a book with pages that face each other. You know, posters, we don't need it to face pages. So deselect that. For your margins, typically we like to keep margins somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch for a print project. If you remember, margins are that space on the outside of your page that you deem sort of like a dangerous area to put content because it might fall off the print or whatever. And then everywhere inside the margin is the safe area. Let's keep 0.5 inches for this project. I think that's safe. And then for bleeding slug, we're not going to get into it for this project. We'll address it in project 3, but just know that those are settings that you can control and you should be aware of. So with all those set, we can create our document. Voila, here's our page. Love it. Love to see it. I am working from the workspace called Essentials. I want to make sure that you kind of see something similar to me. So the very first thing you should do if you're not seeing a screen that looks exactly like this is reset your workspace. So up in the top right where it says Essentials is a drop-down menu. You can click Reset Essentials, and that should put you in the same exact spot that I'm in. There's also a preference menu to edit your units and increments. If you go to InDesign, preferences, units and increments, and you'll see very quickly your settings will be set to pica. Let's set ours to inches. Um, so horizontal and vertical, set those to inches just so you never have to see that term again, right? And then what do we need to do? We need to add grids to your document. So if you see this screen, it looks familiar, it looks like Illustrator, it looks like Photoshop. And if your rulers are turned on, Control or Command R turns those on, and you recall you could drag down and add some guides to your page. However, we want to create a grid that is evenly spaced. For your project, we're designing what is called a modular grid, which gives you very similarly sized modules. And in those modules, you can start to place content and move stuff around. And the way we do that is through the Layout tab. So up on the top, you'll click Layout and click Create Guides. I always suggest leaving Preview checked so that you can see what is happening in real time as you start to make adjustments. So as I increase the number of rows, you'll see these cyan lines appear and is giving us gutters, which is very nice. Just as a quick rule of thumb, I suggested starting with 8 rows and 6 columns. If you want to do more than that, that's totally fine. I wouldn't suggest going less than that because this document is big. It's 11 by 17 inches. You'll find as you start to include body copy and headers and different type hierarchies, this kind of gives you a lot of control and a lot of ability for variety. So I think this is a good place to start. Um, the options is something you should pay attention to though. So click between margins and pages and see what happens in the differences. You'll see as I click page, it aligns the space of each module to the edge of the page, which could be good if that's what you're intending to do, if you're only really wanting to work within like the innermost sections of the grid. However, if you want to put stuff on the outside, but still respect your margins here, you would have to like kind of squeeze it into the space between here. And it gives you uneven shaped columns, and we don't want that. So when you click margins, it readjusts the sizing of each module so that it fits all within the margins, which I always prefer. And that's how you set up your grids. So now you have your document set up, the right size, you have the grids all laid out, and now you get to start playing with it. You'll notice though, I could still edit these guides, and that's not preferred. So in order to lock those, you're gonna go View, Grids and Guides, Lock Guides, and now you can't edit them. So that's how you set up your document, set up your grids. Perfect. In the next video, we're going to talk about some overall use cases for InDesign, some of the tools you should expect to use, um, and then different ways to view your work. Thanks.